So good morning, everybody. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Christine Singhass. I'm an associate broker here in Virginia, in Central Virginia. I actually am the former state broker for EXP, and I manage 2,400 agents, did training for them every week individually and in group sessions. Jeanette was not able to make today's Unplugged, so she apologized. She's out on travel unexpectedly and kind of asked me to step in. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of things. One of the things that actually Michael was kind enough to advertise was kind of building our sphere. If you guys, Ariana, understanding you're at work, if you could put in the chat how long you've been doing real estate, that'll kind of gauge me on how in depth or where I kind of need to start on building your sphere.
Yeah, so I actually passed my test and got licensed with a team of EXP back in July. But unfortunately, because I work full time, I wasn't able to get any leads. I am working my first lead now, though. So I've had it for almost a year.
Okay,
So yeah, I'm super fresh.
great. And Courtney, you put in there that you're 2 years, but you've been doing part-time.
That's correct. Yeah, about 2 years ago, during excuse me, after the lockdown and all, I went ahead, got my license. I've been an investor for a number of years and done flips and so on and so forth. And so, no, I decided we were locked down. I go to school, learn something new. So I got my license and got a couple of Sphere folks that I knew, one buying, one selling. So I did two deals pretty quickly. And
Nice.
then my other business kind of picked up again. And so I really haven't done any deals in the last year, 14
Okay.
months now since I did my last one. So I considered myself part-time up until just a few weeks ago when I joined LPT.
Very good. So I actually started to part-time. I'm going into my 20th year in real estate, and I did start part-time. I was dual career. Actually, I was a master gardener. And as a master gardener, I would be able to meet people that came into the landscaping company who were improving their homes and strike up conversations. Why are you improving your home? And I actually got to pick up a couple of leads like that. So let me talk to both of you with respect to your sphere of influence. So your sphere of influence is everyone that you know, right? You usually will start with your Christmas list, your Christmas card list, or your Christmas email list these days. I'm not sure what people normally do. I still do cards. How many people do you guys have in your database? About, or have you started your database yet?
My database is probably about just under 100, I'm going to say. My LinkedIn, obviously, haven't been a professional in the oil business for 30 years, just nearly 1,000. So now that I'm moving from one career to the other, I plan on doing quite a bit of advertising and posting on LinkedIn about my change.
Okay, very good. Ariana, have you been able to start on your sphere of influence on your database
Um,
yet?
a little bit. So I do my son's ninja class. I do work in a medical office. So I
Okay.
have about 45 people that I nurture. But I'm working on growing that because this is only temporary for a minute.
Okay. Are you guys using Chime
Yes.
as your
Yes,
database?
I'm
Okay.
just getting mine set up now. Yes.
Okay, great. So Chime is the one of the best resources that you can usually have. When I actually started back in February of 2004, they didn't really have these types of databases. So I had Outlook and I had Excel spreadsheets, and over the years, you just kept, importing them to the next best thing, right? So Chime, and we're about ready to be offered Follow Up Boss, which I actually use as well. And I actually prefer Follow Up Boss myself. But either of them use the same purposes. So when you're building your sphere, you want to put everything into your database as much as you can. Phone numbers, anniversary dates, addresses. You're shaking your head, Courtney. So I'm thinking that you're familiar with this from your other profession. So you want to put as much information in there, because when you start going back to your clientele, if you haven't talked to them in 6 months and you look back at that database and it says, oh, anniversary, oh, March 31st, hey, drop them a text. How was your anniversary? Happy anniversary. You could always use your holidays to kind of fill in the blanks there, but I went as far as even putting in specifics as far as their kids, how old their kids were, if their kids were in sports, if they went to college, when they were going to college. Those gave me opportunities to strike up new conversations with people that I already knew. But let's face it, if you haven't talked to them in 6 to 8 to maybe 12 months, it's kind of hard just to pick up the phone and say, "Oh, it's your friendly realtor. Give me some business." Doesn't quite work like that. So you realize that we're in a very, very relationship oriented business. Everything that we do, we're building relationships because those relationships are going to parlay into additional referrals. I can tell you that my strongest clients are the first that I had in my first year. My very first client, I've done 12 transactions with between him and his family. I didn't market for it. All I did was, he's a motorcycle rider. He was a veteran from the Air Force. I knew he was retiring. His father passed away, and actually I got him. So when I started in real estate, they kept telling me, farm, cultivate what you know. Well, I live in rural Virginia. So we have a farmette. We've got a $1 million property down the dirt road. We've got 2 trailers that are backed together that look like a shift double wide. So we run the gamut, right? So, what do we have in common out here? So I actually started with land. And when way back then, I didn't have the access to go online to GIS tax mapping or county records. And I literally would have to go to the Orange County Courthouse and pulled up paper maps. And I literally canvassed a 5-mile area within my house. And that's how I actually found this. I hand wrote letters to these people and said, "Hi, my name is Christine. I live in the area. I wanted to find out if you were interested in finding out the value in your piece of land." This gentleman's land was, I remember correctly, it was about 20 acres. He had just inherited from his father. Put 2 roads in, and actually we sold 5 houses on those 2 roads. So the reason that he actually chose me, and mind you, I was a green as green could be realtor. The reason he chose me was because I physically walked the land with him. I physically walked it, had my little duck boots on. I'm out there, don't really know what I'm looking at, but I'm out there. And he's like, "Oh no, I had some guy come out here and he wanted nothing." He's just like, "Oh yeah, nice. Okay. Well, you've already got the roads done," but didn't really have any conversation as to the topography or what you could see or views or anything like that. So we literally established such a relationship that I've been to his home. I have sold for both of his daughters, for his sister, for his cousin. So these are the types of relationships that you really want to secure because they're the ones that are going to be the ever after. I also have another one who is a retired Marine colonel. Love him to death. When I started working with him, he was actually a colonel in Fallujah. This was back in 2006 or 2007. So we were active at the time. And when his wife is in California, they're getting ready. When he comes home, they're coming to Fredericksburg. So I'm working with them through the internet, and it's coming up to Christmas. And I said, Colonel Rodebaugh, what can I do for you and your troops? It's coming up to Christmas time. My office, we've got a lot of veterans. I'm a military brat. My husband was Army. And he's like, "I'm sorry," but he was Marine. Funny. But he said, "My guys don't need anything. They need nothing." And he said, "What we need is these kids' daddies to stop shooting at us." And I'm like, what a surreal thing to hear, right? Because we live in America where you don't have to worry about, in a normal situation, walking outside of your house and being shot at. So one of the things that he said was, make the kids happy. And I literally collected my entire brokerage at the time, and we made gallon-sized bags filled with candy canes and crayons, a skull cap, and dollar store gloves. We actually had 70 gallon-sized bags that we shipped to Fallujah. And he sent me video. This could choke me up. He sent me videos of the Marines opening it up and giving it to the kids. And he will never forget that. I won't ever forget that. Anyway, he came home and we found him a great house, fabulous house, except we bought from a retired Air Force colonel. That was an interesting transaction, folks. If you ever know anything about military, the branches are a little competitive with each other. So that was kind of interesting, turning the Air Force man cave, which had a full bar. I mean, it looked like a pub. Turning that Air Force bar into a Marine bar was a unique experience. Anyway, the Rotabas I bought and sold for now for 6 times, and continually they will tell me no one that we know will ever buy or sell real estate unless they use you. Those are the types of relationships that we really want to harness, that we really want to cultivate, because those are the ones that continue to, I mean, let's face it, would you rather work a Zillow lead or someone you know? Right? So working a Zillow lead, you have to work 4 times as hard to build that relationship, because you've got maybe 10 seconds to keep them on the phone and start getting information for them before they're either ready to hang up because they got their answer. They don't like your tone. They don't like your voice. They don't want to be sold. There's a million reasons. So I actually do, one of the classes that I'm getting ready to prepare for is taking Zillow calls and making the most of them. So I'm actually working directly with the Zillow training department, and I've got a meeting at 12 to keep that going too. So keep your eyes open for that one if you do any type of lead generating calls. It's not exclusive to Zillow. Anyway, these are the types of relationships that you want to build with your clients to find out who they are, what they're about. One of the things, part of my background is actually being a director of sales and marketing at hotels, at major resorts. And when you have an employee, you can mandate that your employee come in and share with you the work that they actually did through the week. And they used to have call sheets. So they would have to do 20 brand new sales calls every week. And the sales calls would include, if they were calling an association, maybe, who's your meeting planner? How many meetings do you have a year? Where do you go? Who else plans? Who's your competition? And this is the same premise that when we work with our clients, we really need to know what's bringing you to this area. If I have a client coming in from Texas, Courtney, what's bringing you into the Virginia area? Oh, well, my company's transferring me out. Fantastic. Let me get, what do you know about the area? Let me get you some information if you're not familiar. Why is your company transferring you out? Is it a division? Is it a new operation? Is it a remote position? If you find out, and this is actually a real case scenario, we had a pharmaceutical company come south of where I live, in a couple of counties south of where I lived, and I worked with the Department of Tourism. The company that came in was brand new. They built the facility. I can't remember now where they came from. I actually became the relocation expert for the company because I had one person tell me, I'm being relocated in here. And I'm like, okay, who are you working with from your company to help you relocate? And then I called that person and said, how many people do you have coming in? What level are they? And this is to gauge, is this a first-time home buyer? Is this an executive? So that would kind of gauge on my level as to what I really needed to know about the area. So making sure that you get the most out of the people that you're talking to, and this goes with your family too. I can count on at least one hand family members of mine that used a realtor other than me, including my own brother. Although once he got into a hot seat, he had to call me to get him out of it, and I did. But the fact that he didn't start with me, biggest blunder I could ever have as a professional. So my sister-in-law. So making sure that when you have Aunt Ida in Washington State, well, get a referral. A referral is the easiest money that you can get. So make sure that when you're building your sphere, especially starting with the people that you start with your Christmas card list, all of your relatives, every single one of them, regardless of location, should be in there. And you need to maintain it too. You need to keep them, put them on a holiday list, put them on a holiday email so that you can make sure, even if you're not picking up the phone to call and touch them, that you're sending them something reminding them, I'm in real estate and I can help you anytime, anywhere, any state, so that they don't go somewhere else. Right. So this is kind of amazing. So unfortunately, my dad passed about 12 years ago, and my mom joined a club called Widows with Stilettos. Real story. It's the funniest thing. There are a bunch of affluent women who lost their husbands, their spouses, and they do Friday cocktails. They do the museum openings. They do 2 international trips a year. And every time these ladies get bored, literally, they want to move. Oh, I want to go to a condo. No, I want to go to Bayshore. No, I want to do this. So mom's like, hey, Christine, so every time I go home to mom's in Tampa, I literally go have cocktails with the widows with stilettos. So don't discount everybody that you meet has got a need for a roof over their head. You just need to find out what kind of roof they need and what they can afford, and making sure that there's something out there. So let's talk a little bit about Ariana, you were talking about your kids. Did you say they were in sports? She may be talking to someone. She is at work. So my kids are grown. My husband and I have two grown children, 21 and 24. 21-year-old is actually a licensed agent in Hampton Roads with LPT. Yay. Although I wanted him to be the engineer in linguistics, which is what he was studying for. He's now a realtor. So when the kids were young, they were in soccer, they were in basketball, they were in baseball, they were in drumline, they were in everything that most kids, kind of get in and out of. And one of the things that I noticed early on, especially our youngest son, he was in marching band and he was in drumline. And this is one of the closest knit groups. And I've seen it before with the football families. The concession stands that you work, the fundraisers that you do. I actually created a program for my son's booster. And I went through the president of the booster club and said, any family member that buys or sells real estate through me over $100,000, because I wanted to put a price on it, I will donate $250 in their child's name back to support the funds that child had to pay to be in the boosters, in the football program or whatever. And I threw a wrench into it. My husband loved that we would do their time at the concession stand at a Friday football game. So needless to say, there were a few years that we were every single Friday, come rain or fall, come freezing or not, we were at the football game slinging burgers. Yes, dear, I'm talking about you. He just popped his head in. So when you look at what you're doing in your life, look at who the influence is, look at who you normally interact with. That's where your greatest impact for creating your sphere is going to be. You don't have to create something superficially or force it, because when you do, your potential clients, your customers will know that it's not either sincere or it's not organic. So take what it is that you guys use. Courtney, you're dual career, so you've got colleagues. I know sometimes when you're dual career, it's difficult to potentially solicit your colleagues. Is there any way that you've kind of been able to slide in your real estate career?
Somewhat. Most of what I do as far as my consulting work, I'm not local. I travel. So it's
Okay.
either overseas or it's up on the north slope of Alaska or it's someplace in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's not like a local, like I have an office down the street doing something or being engaged in the community that way. So it's quite a different scenario. But I have tried to start sharing with and again, this is why I want to build up my LinkedIn, is my primary focus is going to be on a probate space. I went through it, probated for my mother, got the experience, 3 properties, 3 states, 3 sets of lawyers, 3 sets of everything. So I feel like it, and I see a gap there, and I just feel like that's a gap that I can work because I understand it. So I'm trying to build my sphere and educate my sphere on family planning, make sure they have their estate set up. I've got a couple of attorneys that I've already worked with. So those kinds of things is what I'm trying to use to solicit my sphere, is make sure your plans are in place.
So you could even take that one step further. So when we're talking about building those relationships with our clients, one of my agents, this goes back to 2015, maybe. I had my own, I had a little boutique brokerage in historic Fredericksburg, and she had come to me. She was a nurse. She wanted to try her hand. Her girls were a little bit young. Real estate didn't work out for her. She wanted to go back into the nursing field, but we maintained our friendship. And lo and behold, her husband's family owned a golf course. So I helped the family sell a golf course. Well, the mom was the CEO for the golf course, who was an accountant in Northern Virginia, where your median price point right now is $650,000. And whenever she would have estates to be settled, she's calling me, Christine, I need your help. Put this one on the market. So, it's not even just planning, it's settling. So, Courtney, to that And that's a huge, huge market. And I agree, it's an under-tapped market. Most realtors don't know enough about the analytical thinking to put them in position, or what questions or what conversations to have with the attorney, or how to even approach it. We actually had some issues where we needed to have a family lawyer with our oldest son many, many moons ago. And we actually had that conversation too. So whenever you can find yourself, for whatever reason, in front of these people, and quite frankly, when people find you're a realtor, they want to know what you know. How much, what's the market like? What's my house worth? What's going on? What about these interest rates? What about my good credit being impacted by, interest rates? So there's all kinds of things that they want to know from you, because you are the professional. So to that point, make sure you do stay up on what's going on. You don't have to be as much of an expert, but you need to know the basics. Robert Palmer had a brilliant micro video that was just put out on Monday. If you haven't seen it, take a peek at it. It's on the Facebook page. I know I reposted it on my Facebook page. It's fairly short, but it's a brilliant video. And so, Courtney, when you're doing a lot of the social media, that would be one of the resources that you could use to repeat these, so you don't have to come up with the content. So when you guys are doing social media marketing, you don't have to be the originator. You've got brilliant minds like Robert Palmer. You've got your NAR. So if you don't subscribe to NAR, to your TAR, the Texas Association, the Virginia Association, the Florida Association, I see Julio's with us. Hi, Julio. So make sure that you subscribe to them, because they do put out really good content that's relevant to your state. I'm a little bit hesitant sometimes to use NAR data, because when you post national statistics, half the time it doesn't apply to your jurisdiction, your region, and your clients are confused and they think the sky's falling when it's really not in your area. So I would evaluate the content before I'd actually make that commitment. But you can make those posts and you can schedule them to drop. You don't have to do those every day. Hi there. So make sure that you keep an eye on what's going on, especially when you do get in front of your customers and your clients. If they happen to ask you about it, like I said, you don't have to be the resident expert. You just need to know, oh, you know what? Our CEO did a great microburst. Let me send that to you. Or why don't you try going to my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, and you can see everything that you need from from the horse's mouth, right? That way we don't misinterpret anything. We don't send the wrong messages to them, and you become the resident expert. So the next thing you know, they're going to be coming to you for everything. One of the things when I originally created my Facebook business page was my husband and I are really big on festivals, wineries. We like to do the thrift store shopping. There's a lot in Central Virginia, the antique places. And every single week without failure, I would post what was to do that weekend. I had people I had other realtors coming just to find out what was going on. So when you create your media, when you create your content, Courtney, for LinkedIn is less of a social and more of a professional, but you can add a flavor to it. You can add some of your own, because you want to do business with people with like minds. I want to do people who enjoy the same thing I do, because the more commonalities we have, if we hit a hurdle, if we hit a bump throughout that transaction, that commonality can balance it out. When you're dealing with like a Zillow, when you're dealing with a cold lead, and you might have a good banter, you might have but you really don't know them. You really don't know, their background. You don't know that much about them. It can be a little bit difficult. So those are some of the things that you can do. So Ariana, take advantage of the children. That way you can spend more time with them. We got to spend time and we went to all of our events with our kids. If you're able to build in a dual career and introduce your real estate, I would highly recommend that. And if you wanted to do something, so I actually started too, when I first started real estate, Make-A-Wish was a big nonprofit. I was a big fan of theirs. So at closing, I would donate $100 in my client's name at settlement. It was just a token. It was my closing gift. It was because it was something that I believed in and I wanted to do. I actually parlayed that, and throughout my career, even before real estate, I've always been involved in nonprofits. So I've been involved in the Kids with Cancer in Virginia. We used to do camps. We used to do fundraising. I was the vice president for Healthy Families. I was the president for Central Virginia Housing Coalition. So it's mostly my involvement's been housing related. That's my choice. And when I would build my clientele through those networks, I would do donations back to that nonprofit in their name. Working with my agents, they're like, well, yeah, but you've been doing this. You've been the association president, so everybody knows you. How do we get our toes in it? How do we touch our feet in it? And one of the things that I went back to, one of my gals in particular, she loved pit bulls. She had 8. Oh my God, 8. Yeah. No, thank you. You have 2? Okay. So she loved them. It was her passion. And I said, well, have you heard about, or have you looked into a pit bull rescue? Have you looked into SPCA? Have you looked into different nonprofits that would protect the animals that you so dearly love? Because that love is going to be shared by other people. And if you can intermingle with them and bring back monies to that nonprofit, you can actually build an entire platform on people who love pit bulls. I worked with them on building a Facebook business page, all things pit bulls. So put up my cards. How do I ask in a professional? Okay. Let me answer that one, Ariana. So making sure that her Facebook page matched. So you're talking about branding now, right? Because you can't just throw it out there once and say, oh, I did my best. My level of involvement, I was on the board for 8 years for Central Virginia Housing Coalition. Because of my position, I was able to parlay that into task force for the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance to address homelessness. So I really started elevating it to not necessarily homelessness, who not our preferred buyer, but going into executive levels when you're looking at upper level association executives and elected officials. So there's ways that you can parlay that, but you've got to have that methodical, what next? Who am I going to touch? How am I going to reach it? How am I going to expand it? So Ariana, kind of the same point, when you talk about getting your business cards out to other professionals, who are you referring to? Let me see if I can see the whole chat. How do I ask in a professional even? Other businesses. So what businesses are you looking to put out your cards? If you can't go on voice, if you could type in, and that would be great. There are some businesses. So my son's sports cars, doctor's office. Okay, very good. So in restaurants I've worked with before too. So take a look at your son's sport class. Do they have to pay any fees? Do you have to do anything as a parent to contribute to supporting that? So take a look at the fees and figuring out how you can, because not all parents can afford these fees, right? Sometimes, and I live in a rural area, so I have seen it, and it actually gave me great joy to know that someone buying, and it wasn't in a great price point, but I helped a family get a home, and I helped their child get to staying in the program that they really enjoyed. And music is a really big deal to me. So take a look at your son's sport, find out if there is a booster program that supports it. If you're volunteering, and that's really how I got into it when my husband and we first got into it by literally volunteering at the concession stand, because we didn't know, first time home parent, home parent, right? First time parent, going into the concession stand, didn't know what we were doing. And we just started talking. We talked to all of the parents. My youngest son has been out of school for 3 years now, and we still talk to the boosters. So the president of the boosters, whose father is a major alumni donor. So I still have 6 connections from these ladies that I worked with every single Friday night, and that we traveled with drumline every single Saturday when it wasn't football season. So start with your relationships with them first, Ariana, to see how, and tell her, I see the families that are having to pay this. And if you need, Ariana, you can certainly, let me put my email on here for you guys in case you need it. if you need to look at housingnops@gmail.com, if you need to look at the little flyer that I put together for Orange County boosters, giving the $250 back, and you can modify it to make it your own. But if you want to use that as a template, you are more than welcome to do that. But you really need to have those relationships in the sports capacity first. But I took mine from band going into the entire boosters. So band was a fairly small, and we all know football's the moneymaker, right? I know it is in Texas. It is in almost any school that I've ever been to or the kids have ever been to. So when you've got the moneymaker with the sports of football, if you can get your sport into a bigger booster. So in Orange County, it's the booster program. It supports all of them. But I started with the band first, and then we parlayed that into, because we could utilize the success and say, hey, look what we did for the band. Would the football team and the cheerleading squad like to take advantage of this? Well, yeah. Why not? Right? Who's going to get back free money? No one. So take a look at that. But Ariana, shoot me an email and I'll find that template and I will shoot it over to you. Anybody who wants it, I'm happy to share. Doctor's offices, not usually such an easy thing. The doctor's office is up for years and years. I used to have a magazine called American Lifestyle. Have you guys heard of this? No. Okay. American Lifestyle is a pre-manufactured new, it's beautiful. It's glossy, it's color. You can buy it. Way back when, I think I used to spend maybe $1.99 on it. My picture went on it, my contact on it. I could customize the inside cover and the back inside cover. So if I wanted to have my title, my lender, they could offset my expenses, first of all. They could also get it. So the challenge with American Lifestyle is that you could not have duplicate addresses. So my pediatrician, right? So when I would go into their office, I'd put his address in American Lifestyle. If no one had already taken it, I could add it. So whenever you go to a doctor's office, you always have your magazines on the, so because you're always waiting for them. So that would be kind of a backdoor entrance into the doctor's offices. It might depend upon how who the doctor is and kind of what the arrangements are. I have Kaiser. And I just had surgery. So for those of you who don't know, I literally broke my ankle about 5 weeks ago. So I've been almost bedridden because it was a 4 break and it was surgical and it was a mess. Anyway, long story short, my surgical team was phenomenal. I was freaked out. I hadn't had that kind of surgery before. My husband couldn't be there holding my hand through the whole process. When I was in post-op, I'm kind of coming out. I'm kind of doped up, but I'm coming out of it. And come to find out that the post-op nurse was an investor. And she's just talking to me, trying to get me coherent and what do you do and where are you from? And she actually told me, so there was another gentleman that came to help with the post-op, and he was another RN. And she's like, yeah, close your ears, Christine, we're not supposed to talk to people about what they do. But I gave her my card. And I actually sent the surgical team a bouquet of fruit, thanking them with plethora of business cards. So, thank you so much for taking such great care of me. I hope if you ever need services that I can return the favor. So, your medical people aren't usually rewarded or even recognized to that extent. Sometimes they are, sometimes, most of the time, I think they're not. But even when I went for my post-op check-in with the surgeon, he just thought it was great. He's like, nobody's ever done that. And they really, really appreciated it. So making sure that you can make those contacts. But I haven't had much luck with the doctors beyond that. My primary knows that I'm in real estate. We talk about real estate, but he can engage because I think it's their code, not ours. So if anybody else has got thoughts about an into the doctors, I would love to hear that. As far as restaurants, there's a couple of different ways you can get into restaurants. Who you feel free to jump into. We're real formal today. We're just kind of having a conversation. So restaurants, some of them will have the billboards up, right? So wherever you go, your dry cleaners, your car wash, anybody, I know 5 Guys in our local area, they've all got the cork boards up. Carry your cards everywhere you go. Put them wherever you see anybody else's. Sometimes you get a hit, sometimes you don't. But if you're not out there, you will never get a hit. So make sure that you make yours as visible as others. A couple of things that I've done with different restaurants. There was one in particular in Fredericksburg that I frequent all the time. La Petite is a French restaurant. It's fairly well known in downtown Fredericksburg. My office was a block over, so I'd go in there, twice a week at least for lunch. I knew the bartender because I'd sit in the bar area instead of fine dining. And we literally did something where we would collect cards, that the bartender was collecting cards, and we would do a drawing for a gift certificate for $150. It was not a cheap place. But if I got 20 cards out of it, because of the caliber of the restaurant, these were not McDonald line people. These were fine dining, upscale. La Petite's probably one of our top 3 restaurants in Fredericksburg. So it's probably easier to do something online with maybe an Applebee's or a chain, but you can do it with almost any restaurant. Become the regular. Make sure you continue to build those relationships. Every single time you go into that restaurant, every single time when you sign your check, you put your business card on there. Thanks for the great service. I hope I can return the favor. So that the restaurant knows that's who you are. I actually got so proficient when my office was downtown Fredericksburg. A block away was the Fredericksburg Tourism Center. I would bring them cookies every single month. They literally had people walking into my office from the tourism center because I thought of them every single month. And then it became, friends of theirs. And it wasn't even just clientele that were walking into the center. So it's all about the relationships that you're building on where you can take that next. Julio, did you have anything to add about your dry cleaners?
Oh, sorry about that. No, I was just saying that since you're talking about putting your information out in local businesses and stuff, I guess because I've been in and out. I had something going on in the house, so I
Yeah.
figure you were probably talking about that. To have the dry cleaners is a place that it's great to
Yes.
have that relationship with the dry cleaners. A lot of people go there,
Mhm.
business people, and
And
it's always good to
regularly. That's right.
yeah,
They go there
regularly.
regularly. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, a lot of people actually know their dry cleaners too by name. So when you're going into the dry cleaner, when you're paying your bill, give them your
right,
card.
right,
One of the rules of thumb that when my new agents would start was my challenge to them was to give out 15 new business cards a day. And through COVID, a little bit difficult. I get that, but this was way pre-COVID. So it was a little bit more challenging to get face to face to people, first of all, but to get that business card out there as much as you possibly could. So I also want to keep you guys in kind of a mindset that you will find business no matter where you go. So a cute story that I actually had with my son, and one of the reasons he tiptoed into real estate. We were grocery shopping one afternoon. It was probably about 4:30 or so, and there were firemen, firewomen in front of us. They probably had like a 5-pound thing of ground beef. They had a couple pounds of pasta. They had some garlic bread. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a 25, and they're probably feeding the entire firehouse, right? Cheap, easy. So we actually followed them out to the parking lot. We didn't follow them home, but we found out that what station they were at, and I actually contacted the station chief. We set up a quarterly dinner that we went in there and cooked for them every quarter. We had our logoed shirts on. We brought our logoed water bottles into. We didn't ask for their business. We just wanted to thank them for their service to the community. So this was a repetition. These people are fighting fires and saving lives throughout the community. They have taken me in ambulance a couple times. Fortunately, it was not as serious as it was feeling like I was getting in the ambulance. But you want to make sure that you're acknowledge them and you're part of the community. So that was a really unique one. One of the other ones that we actually had was in our area. Our school system is very small. We only have one high school in the entire county. We've got 2 middle schools and I think 2 elementary schools. So very, very small. So the community, very small again. So we would actually buy a dozen donuts and put it in the teacher's lounge every single month for the schools that my kids were in. And on that, we had the inside of the box that had, it was a little bit bigger. So it was kind of like the size of the box, but it had the information, the brokerage, my picture, it had the important information. So every single month they saw my information. So it was repetition. It cost me what, $13 for a box of donuts. It was acknowledgement to the teachers and appreciation for taking care of my child and hopefully taking care of him a little bit better because I'm giving him donuts every month. So it's kind of funny that you can find these ideas, you can find these opportunities every single where you look. Oddly enough, one of my favorite places, I don't know if you guys have Bonefish where you are, Bonefish Restaurant. In Fredericksburg, it's my favorite. I know the owner, I know the bartender who's also a golf pro who was giving me golf lessons, and almost bought the golf course that I sold. So I am really comfortable going in there. And I used to go in there on my way home from work. If I wanted to decompress before I got home, I would go in there, write down my notes for the day. And I was in there on 2 different occasions where actually, because I'm sitting alone, I'll either have my notebook out, scratching notes or jotting down ideas. And twice I've had people say, you need to tell your boss that you need to stop working so hard. And I'm like, well, thanks, but I'm kind of my own boss. I sell real estate. No kidding. I got a $600,000 sale from those people. Because the conversation then turned to, really, our house is in estates at Chancellorsville. And, what do you think that it's worth and what's going on in the market? If you stay abreast of what is going on in the market, you can have these conversations confidently and comfortably. And I say that because a lot of times when someone asks you and you don't really know what's going on, you kind of stumble and you search for words. You certainly don't want to make it up because the more that you make up, could be right, could be wrong. So you want to under promise and over deliver. If you know what's going on in your market, and all of you have different MLSs. So I highly recommend that you continue to look in your MLS and study them. Most associations, most local associations will put out either a monthly or a quarterly a snapshot. What's going on, how many new homes compared to this time, prices, different things like that, how many are pending. So the more knowledgeable that you can be on the fly and just talking about that, the easier it is for you to converse with people anywhere. And one of the things that I would challenge my agents and having actually gone through formal training. So I actually was a formal trainer through Capital One. I worked with them for many years. I did training in the hospitality industry, and I actually am certified through NAR, and I do local and state training. But one of the things that I used to tell my agents was that you need to come up with your 2-minute elevator speech. If you're on an elevator going from the first floor to the 6th floor or the 3rd floor or whatever, what kind of conversation could you have? What kind of impact can you make on the people or person that you're speaking to in that elevator that can make a difference in your profession or in their life, quite frankly? So I would have my agents write it out, as silly as it was. And these days I actually say, Google real estate elevator conversations, real estate conversations. You can find so much on Google these days. You don't really have to create anything anymore. You find it, you customize it. My recommendation to them, in fact, if you go to Brian Buffini or Tom Ferry's website, they both have scripts for almost everything. Read those scripts, but do it with your phone videoing you. You want to see your face, you want to hear your tone, and you want to see your expression. Only you need to see it. You don't need to share it. You don't need to video it and send it to viral, whatever. But it's something that will prepare you to be more comfortable that when you're talking, first of all, on video, because if you're not doing video now, you need to be. So Courtney, when you're going on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. Michael uses a program called CapCut, CAPCUT. And I actually have that downloaded, and I was asking him tricks and tips because on my phone, it's very difficult to edit videos. but now I have it on my iPad so I can see it a little bit easier. But it really makes your videos a little bit higher quality so that when you're putting them on a professional social medium like LinkedIn, it will do you much greater service. But if you're not using video, I highly recommend it. Ariana, you should be doing videos with the kids if you're out at the soccer field or whatever, doing videos on, what a great day. Kids are out playing. You don't have to show the kids' faces, maybe from afar. But, what a great day to buy and sell real estate. Give me a call. You want to show people that you're real. So you don't have to be perfectly made up. You don't have to be, you certainly don't want to look like you rolled out of bed. But we're real, right? So we're not glamazons that go onto video like a newscaster or an anchor that has the makeup crew. We're real people, and our clients need to see us as real people too. So making sure that you do the videos. I have agents that actually do a video every single day. Some of them do it, and sorry guys, I'm not a principal broker anymore, but my agents still consider me their brokers, so that's how I refer to them. They are my agents, and they will always be my agents, even if they were from 3 brokerages ago. But they literally will be in their car. Hey guys, I'm headed to my first appointment for the day. It's raining, but I can guarantee you we're going to buy and sell some real estate today. Give me a call and let's get you going too. It can be that simple. It can be 15 seconds, but it's a repetition that everybody that's on your social media will be able to see. The only thing that I'm going to roll into that too is that when you're doing social media, make sure that you are abiding by the regulations through your state code. Ariana, if you have any questions about Virginia, give me a call. I used to audit the agents all the time, and I can tell you that 95% of all of our agents worldwide are wrong. So if I can, I'll put you on my feed, and I'll keep an eye on it. But making sure that if you're advertising a name that is not your licensed name, check with your regulatory commission to make sure that you're authorized to use it. I know a lot of agents in the Virginia area use a team name or a business name. If it's not licensed through the state, it is illegal. So my job still, my job until my dying day will always be protecting agents. So if there's ever anything that I see that needs to be perfected or corrected, it's never meant in a bad way. It's meant in a very caring way, because I want you to be the best that you can possibly be. So part of my background too with that training comes marketing. So I've done sales and marketing for airline. I was with Eastern Airlines, Continental Eastern Sales. I went into hotel resorts, and then I went into credit card with Capital One. I started in sales training and ended up on a senior position. So if you start creating content for your marketing of the people that you're trying to build up in your sphere, and make sure you guys go into a firehouse, you get everybody to sign in. Right. And then you add them to your sphere, you add them to your Chime, or your follow-up boss, whatever platform you're using, so that you can maintain those relationships. They may not have any interest. They might not have any idea that they can even qualify. So you want to keep adding them in there. So make sure that when you're building your sphere that you actually work it every single day. You don't have to touch everybody every single day, but you need to make sure. If you haven't seen yet the prospecting boxes that are available through our marketing center, oh my gosh, take a look at them. It's one thing to see it online, but I was in St. Pete for the Grand Prix, and they are phenomenal. So Ariana, Courtney, Julio, if you guys are in neighborhoods, Julio, you probably saw it because I know you were down there. But if you guys live in neighborhoods, or if you're looking at farming, or even if you've got so I've got a listing in a gated community right now. It's a waterfront community. They've got horses, they've got golf, they've got everything. And I've got the power pack for the listing itself. So I sent out the postcards to all my tenants in the neighborhood. I sent out, the door knockers. And I was told actually that the door knockers, you could cut off the doorknob part of it, and they fit into a legal envelope perfectly, or a letter envelope. I'm not sure. I haven't tried that one yet. But because I've got that in that community now, I'm looking at getting this prospecting pack so that I can do something on a much larger scale. So your houses in that community start at about 315. Not bad. You go to waterfront, you're pushing over $1 million. It's a finite area. If I was to really cultivate it, I would have to travel no more than 2 miles for my entire sphere, my entire farm. So when you guys start looking at your farms and start looking at developing them, when I was new to the business, I would go anywhere, anytime, anyhow. What a waste of my time, because I would be to Timbuktu and back, and I'm just not making the money for the time. And my justification was, well, it was good experience, right? Yeah, but my experience could probably be better served through trainings like this, trainings through my association, research on my own, doing my videos, doing my marketing. But literally, when I tell you, I was doing probably 60-mile trips. I was going, so where I'm at, I would go to Leesburg, I'd go to Williamsburg, I would go to Blacksburg. You're talking 2 hours, not worth your time. And it's an ethics violation if you're not proficient in that area that you're selling. So a couple things on that. But making sure that you're using the most of your time. I'm a really big fan of farming neighborhoods for that very reason. If you're working buyers, they're going to take you everywhere, right? If you're buying leads from Zillow or from anywhere else, you can specify the zip code, so it kind of keeps you a little bit confined. And that's what you really want to do. You want to make sure that you're using your time the best. And you're not going from to and fro. Of course, gas wasn't as high as it was now back then. So there's an expense to it at this point as well. So you guys have had me talking for nearly an hour. What questions can I answer for you? What ideas have you done in the past? What else is going on? Does anybody do Zillow calls or lead purchased calls? Nope, not yet. Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
I was just asking if anybody purchased lead calls like Zillow.
Purchase lead calls? No, well, the ones that we're gonna start getting now, I've never done that, but I do my own pay-per-click, and
Okay.
yeah, I do talk to code, basically, yeah, warm leads when they come into the system. Yeah, I do a lot of circle prospecting. I haven't done them shortly, but
So
I do that.
one of the things that I'm going to be, I'm working on right now, and I think I talked about this right before you jumped in. I'm working with Zillow, and one of the things that I am preparing a training on is how to make the most of a Zillow call, how to qualify it, how to keep them on the phone. First, there's an art to getting the call, because the call doesn't go to one person. So making sure that your carrier and that your phone are set up to get that call faster than anyone else, first and foremost. And it was interesting because I sat in on a Zillow training, was it last week or the week before? And they're like, no, you want to, get them on, get them off. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't. When you get a call, if you're doing you're doing a pay-per-click, you're not necessarily competing with who else is getting that call. But if you're getting a Zillow call, you could be competing against a few other agents. The objective is to keep your client, keep that buyer, that customer on the phone as long as you can. Because if you get the call and I get the call and Ariana gets the call and you've got them on there for 10 minutes, my call doesn't go through. Her call doesn't go through. I even used to tell them, hey, this is Christine, LPT Realty, having the conversation. Now, I just wanted to let you know that going forward, I'm going to be working with you. I am your realtor. You're probably going to be receiving calls from other realtors. You can simply let them know you've already been taken care of, but thank you very much, so that you're educating and preparing them. But working on the Zillow call on how to establish that relationship, what kind of questions to ask, how to get to the next step. There's a lot of tricks to the Zillow, and particularly because there is a high success rate of actually booking an appointment, but there's also a fair amount of no-shows or cancellations. And if you don't have a relationship with the person that you've started that conversation with, they will ghost you. So making sure that you can keep that dialogue open enough to actually get them to the showing, continue to build the relationship, and ultimately to the settlement table. So that's coming up probably within the next few weeks. So we will advertise that in advance, because I know that there are a lot of people, especially down in Florida, who are going to get the opportunity before we do up in Virginia and Texas to take those Zillow calls. That's kind of all I have for now. You guys have my email address. If you have any questions, or if you have any follow-up, if you've got any ideas but maybe don't know how to take them a little further, please reach out to me. I'd be delighted to help you. I love helping my agents succeed. I would be honored to help you guys. And that's all I have for you today. Happy Wednesday.